Awesome. Hello, guys. Welcome to this conversation today. I would like to have this moment to be a collaborative for sure. And I will guide us through answering this question, right? Why self awareness? And I want to welcome all of you and praise the local DAO Summer event contributors and praise Josh for the invitation and the Refi DAO, all the community. I'm so happy to be here. So glad. I feel so part of something big. I think that's the feeling. That's bringing to conscious this need of talking about self-awareness, mental health in general. But yeah, super excited to be here. And I will share my slides. And I want to, if I do the slideshow, does it, I think it goes, right?
Yeah, we see it, yeah.
Perfect. So this is something that I really like doing it. It's an inclusive welcome from Lean, inspired by Lean. I made a couple changes, but Lean is a Gravity DAO contributor, and she does an amazing work teaching us about liberating structures and yeah, she's a very inspirational woman, and she do deep democracy as well. And I want to start our moment including everyone in this welcome. So here we want to express out loud a very warm welcome to each and every one of you, whether it's morning, noon, or night, where you are. Welcome to those venturing for the first time into the realm of a DAO or this very community. For those who found us out of pure chance, wondering what is this all about, you're in the right place at the right time. We welcome those stranging time zones, juggling cultures, backgrounds, and languages. To our seasoned members who've seen the evolution of this space, and those who feel a renewed energy by joining us. Your presence is cherished. Oh, we have a spam there, yeah. That happens. So to every alter ego, non-binary identity, and those embracing multiple facets in their personalities online and offline, your holiness is celebrated here. Today, as we delve into it's not the final lesson, but it's the why self-awareness lesson. We're not discussing conflict. We're actually talking about preventing ourselves in welcoming our heart. Now, we've seen a lot of topics during this event that I'm sure some of them touched your heart, some of them sparkled curiosity, and I'm sure those messages. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you learn through this journey, and we're here to collaborative engage together. So we welcome those who seek the growth, those who embrace change, those who find solace in chaos. Welcome to Symphony of Emotions, Feelings, and Thoughts. Let us embark in this enlightening journey together. And here's to learning, understanding, and growing as a unified community. So welcome all of you. Thank you for being here and embracing this journey together. So I want to present myself also for those who we haven't met yet. Very nice meeting you. My name is Bianca. My handle usually is Bianca Gadelha. All right. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter or on Telegram, on Discord by this handle. I would love to connect to all of you. I am 26. I am Brazilian, so you can see from my accent that I'm not an English native speaker. I'm actually a Portuguese Brazilian speaker. And I am a psychologist, licensed, and a researcher, in especially with the support of Gravity DAO, where I contribute as coordinator manager, and in her DAO Brazil, that I contribute as a governor. So I am in those spaces. Those spaces are also very alive in me. And I would like to start talking about self-awareness by taking a look at those pictures. I encourage all of you to share your thoughts, your feelings, open your camera if you feel comfortable. But I just want to take a moment in this to reflect on those pictures. And I want to ask you, how do you feel when you look at those images? Do any of those images relate to the way you're experiencing yourself right now? Or your day-to-day stuff? And if you want to share, I would really love to hear from you. I took those pictures from Pinterest. I really like going on Pinterest and research for images. And those were the pictures that came out to me when I searched self-awareness, and those stood out from many others. And I see Josh shared complexity. That's what you feel looking at these pictures? Yes. So why is it important that we're here talking about this today? One, shared living in the mind. That's the place that we spend the most time, right? In our own mind. Awesome. So maybe you see those pictures and you're like, oh yeah, I don't really see myself there. Or so as such, I'm sorry, I can't say your name right. So I spend the day in a quiet space in Montreal trying to think about me beneath me, and all I found was generational trauma and rage about injustice. What comes to mind? I feel like the girl staring at her phone like a zombie, since we're always on the phone because of work. Yeah. I feel like those pictures are very easy to relate to. And this is something that we experience in our life, in our trajectory to here. maybe there was a moment that we felt more lonely, and now you feel more connected to the world and the environment around you. But maybe there was a moment that you see that you were happier in the past than you are right now. So I see that like some of these pictures and maybe other ones as well, we can look at them and say like, yeah, I've been here, or yes, I feel like I'm here in this place right now. And becoming aware of it helps us understand and process the way that we experience life around us. And self-awareness is about that moment that you can come back inside of you and reflect in the way that you experience the moments in your life. And to go and talk about self-awareness, for me, it's also important to talk about mental health. And I can share the link to the slides after. I'll put in the Telegram group, so you can have access to the links that are in these slides. And yeah, you can have it as your own resource. But yeah, so there is this quote from this handbook on how to support mental health at work. And this is something very interesting that I also talk about on our Reviton course. I know Josh and Eve took the course recently, so you've seen this before, that mental health is the way that we think and feel and our ability to deal with ups and downs. So in the same way that some part of your life you can relate to maybe something that's in this picture, mental health is also part of the way that you think and you feel your day-to-day stuff, your ups and your downs. Mental health is something we all have. When we enjoy good mental health, we have a sense of purpose and direction, and the energy to do things we want to do, and the ability to deal with the challenges that happens in our lives. So when we're in a good stage of our mental health, we feel like we can do it, we're ready, or we've done this before. Am I still sharing my screen just to check? Oh, Josh, I can't share my screen anymore. I don't know if you can help me with that.
Try now.
Yes.
Cool.
Nice, thanks. So yeah, when we experience a bad stage of our mental health, we feel like we are attacked. Everything around us, it's bad, and we feel like the world is against us, and everything people do is to put me down. Those are some things that you can feel when you're not in a good stage of mental health. And that's also like a sparkle that if you pay attention to yourself and the process that you have inside, you can realize, oh, okay, I'm experiencing this because I'm not actually feeling good in my own mind. So, for example, if you are here like the zombie, right? And you start seeing things in your Instagram that you would like to do, but you don't feel capable of doing those things, you start getting to that bad stage of mental health. When you feel like you are in front of a challenge and you feel so stressed, like there is your own cloud in your head, and you can't do something that you usually would do fine. That's also something that can sparkle in yourself, that you're like, yeah, maybe I need to take some time, maybe I need to come back to my own center and see what's inside me to pay attention, what do I need to do now? So this is the mental health that I like to talk about. There are a lot of different concepts around mental health, but for me, in my psychology journey, this is what I see. That like when people are not in that good stage, that's when things is starting to get difficult and hard to deal with. Yeah, we all go through problems in life, and if it's okay, um, that like in that moment we don't know how to deal with them, or they look so big, but it's the ability on dealing with that problem that's going to reflect if you're in a good or in a bad stage of mental health. And I think this is a really good example. How can we be aware of whatever is going on inside? And yeah, it's not simple. I think talking about it, it's a really good thing. And you can even think like, oh, Bianca knows about these things. She's a psychologist. She doesn't go through hard stuff. I also go through hard stuff. I also feel down. I also have moments that I'm not in a good stage of mental health, but then I need to remind myself that's not who I am, and that's not my everyday, and that it's just a chance for me to start paying attention in those things that I'm dealing with, and trying to figure it out. What are the challenges I'm facing right now, and what are the possible solutions to do? What is that it's in front of you that's doable for you to do and to deal with? So those are important things when we talk about mental health. Um, Mental health, it's not about mental illness, mental disease, even though it can be related to the way that we experience those things. But mental health, it's more about a stage that you see yourself in. Um, and that's why we talk about self-awareness. Because if you are self-aware on everything, all the process that you go through, that you know that like in one day in the morning you woke up angry, you can understand that like, okay, I'm loaded. Okay, I'm stressed. Okay, I'm not feeling good. So I need to give attention to those feelings and those needs. And how can we perceive our mental health in our routine? This is a study from the American Psychology Association. The name of the study is 5 Ways to Improve Employee Mental Health. You can also get the link here later. And this is very curious to me because it says that 2/3 of adults, 63%, that was in the survey in 2022. The survey was about stress in America. They said that their life has been forever changed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Many reported worse mental health, lower physical activity, disturbed sleep, and increased reliance on unhealthy habits, all of which have an impact on employees' health and well-being, to workplace environment and productivity. I'm sure you can relate to this. We all go through the pandemic recently. Now it sounds like it was so many years ago, but it was actually so recent that we're still trying to understand all those consequences from the pandemic, and now we're starting to relate more and more how the world swift after it. But this is interesting for me to see that like after a traumatic event, 63% of the people in that survey, they experience a worse stage in their mental health. That's a lot. Like, you know, um, and this shows us that even if it's not a pandemic, but if you go through something in your own life that is traumatic enough that you can feel it in your mind and in your body, because we are all connected, the body and the mind, um, you already know that you can expect to feel bad after that traumatic event, right? And this is an opportunity for us to pay attention to, okay, this thing here in this pandemic, it affected the entire world, and it was something so big, but what about the little things that happened in my personal life that I don't have anybody to talk with, or when I try to talk to people, they just silence me, or they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're coming with this again." When you don't have a space to talk about these things, you can experience your mental health decrease because you're not going to have that space to talk about it. And then you feel like in those first pictures that maybe you're alone, maybe you're too much in your phone, because being in the phone also gives us a feeling that we are connected somehow, but we're there in our own couch, nobody around. So that's also feeling lonely. And naming the feelings is something that's also a challenge. Um, that it's something that we usually don't know um, how to deal with. Oh, Josh, that's so awesome. I love your mom. So yeah, that's awesome. Like, I would love to have her here, and she could talk about the article because yeah, that's so cool. Um, but yeah, here we're talking about what is that in that scenario that affected you? How can you pay attention to your body and your mind in a way that you can name the things that happen to you? And naming is so important because sometimes you don't know what's happening and what's going on, and you don't know how to deal with it because you don't have a name for it. Recently, I experienced going through so many doctors, and I had an autoimmune disease in my skin that I didn't know, and none of the doctors could tell me what it was. And like before, when I didn't know how to name it, it took like a really big space in my mind because I couldn't name it, and I was like, how am I going to deal with something that I don't even know what it is? So if you experience that in yourself, or if you can remember a part of your story in your life that you're like, yeah, I didn't know I was going through that back then, but now I can understand. Or maybe you're going through something right now that it's been so confusing to you, and maybe there are even flags around you that people are raising, and your partner is saying the same thing that your friends are saying, and it's the same thing that your mom is saying, and those are flags for you to pay attention and to step back in your life and reflect. Why are everybody talking to me like that? Why are those people telling me that I need to take some time off? Why are those people telling me that I need to get out of my phone? And this is a way that we can connect to our own experience and be aware of ourselves. And I want to know, is any of this making sense to you? If you would like to comment, open your mic. Please don't feel like you need to be quiet. But I'll keep going until somebody stops me. um, but yeah, without that, this is a reflection for us in our journey. How do you perceive the relationship around you? So if you could say, how are your parents right now? Would you be able to say how are they feeling and experience their life? And what about if you have kids? How would you say they're feeling? Do you feel connected to those people that are around you? Here I named, a couple of the relationships that we have in life, but the point is for us to be connected, because being connected to people also helps us understand the connection that we make with ourselves, because sometimes we can be too much out there, but we're not paying attention to the connection that we have with ourselves. So we take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves. We can take care of an entire organization, an entire group of people, an entire community, and we are not connected and having a good relationship with ourselves. So this is the self-awareness that we are talking about here. How are those connections around you? And if you're able to name how those people are experiencing their lives, you probably are closer to name how you experience your life, because you're paying attention to the deeper level on their life and their experience. So it means that you're also paying attention to the deeper levels in your own experience, because sometimes things can affect us and we can hide it, and we're like, oh yeah, no, nothing happened. Like when there is a kid around you and they jump, or they do something, they hurt themselves, um and some adults are like, oh no, nothing happened, you're cool. And sometimes we do that to ourselves, like we go through a traumatic experience and we just pretend. We don't connect to the deeper levels in our experience, and this is something that I want to challenge all of you to do in your day-to-day stuff. It's also something that comes from the mindfulness exercise. The mindfulness, it's different than meditation, but meditation is also good. So mindfulness is the ability to be aware of your mind in your day-to-day stuff. So when I'm working, am I paying attention in the way that I'm feeling? Am I paying attention my own needs? When I go walk the dogs, or when I go to the supermarket, am I paying attention to myself, my feelings, my needs, my own requests? Or am I just doing stuff like a robot, just to do stuff? Because that also says about how you are experiencing your own life, right? And what are the things that changed in your life recently? Or if there is any event that you say like, oh, when I was 16 years old, I experienced something that changed my life. And this is a reflection for all of us to do. After whatever happened in your life, are you happier with that? Or does that make you feel sad to have those memories, to have that something that happened to you? Would you do something different if you could? If you could do anything different in your life, would you change something? How's your routine? This is so important, especially when we're talking about being engaged in Web3, that sometimes we don't necessarily have a routine, but it's also important for us to have a routine. And how does that affect you? Right? Maybe you don't have a routine, your life is crazy, you're like, oh, I'm so busy. How can you start making time for yourself in your routine? I think that's the most challenging thing to do. I go through that challenge every day. I look at my calendar and I am like, okay, where is my time in all of this that is happening today? The time that I need to spend with myself. Sometimes it's 10 minutes when I wake up, sometimes it's 30 minutes during the day to watch something, to see the news, or sometimes it's like an hour before going to bed that I can be aware of my day, discuss with people that surround me. You know, you need to have your own time in your routine. And this is something that I really like, especially when we talk about um, time. That is, when was the last time you invested time in your life? And we are in Web3, we're in a crypto world, we talk about tokens, the market, bull, bear, whatever, all about investing, DeFi, but the most um, important resource that we have is time. And we also need to be able to invest time in the things that actually matter in life. So spend time with your dog, spend time with your mom, spend time with your dad if you still have them, spend time with your friends, spend time to your partner. Like, not, I'm saying spend, but I mean to say invest. Invest time on those things. Invest time on being with them. Invest time on being with yourself, because that time is not gonna come back, never. Um, and this is something my dad used to tell me a lot. I see who one is sharing. Something that affects my mental health is the amount of violence that's in the world. And that's good to be aware of it. That's good to be aware of it. Because you can feel that you are affected by something that you cannot control. And what can you do about it? Right? Go back to the doable things. What's the doable things that you can do about it? If that's something that affects you, right? And it also comes to this, like, what is in fact the important things in your life? Are you paying attention to those things? Do you know what's important to you? You know, in a clinic, I also do therapy, psychotherapy for my patients, and it's something that's very interesting to me, is that a lot of the times they come to me and they're like, Bianca, I don't know how to answer the question, who are you, when people come to me. And this is something that it can look so simple, but it's so deep that it made me reflect a lot, like, how can I answer that question? Right? And it was like the first question that I put in the slides today. Who am I? What are the things that you like? Some of my patients doesn't know what are the things that they like to do. They're always depend on what the other person likes to do. And now they're getting into a path that they're discovering the things that they like to do. And for me, that's so pretty. That's so beautiful to engage yourself um, in discovering something new to see if you're going to like it or not. Um, and also, one of the questions that I ask a lot in my sessions with my patients is this: what makes sense to you? Because sometimes they come to me and they're like, yeah, I wanted to go out with that friend and this and that, but I don't know. And I ask them, does it make sense to you to do that? Does it make sense to you to do something that you're not comfortable doing? And I have this one patient that she says that there is a Bianca in her head. They're always asking her the question, does it make sense to me? And I think that's very funny, because yeah, it comes down to it, right? And that's self-awareness, to know what are the things that make sense to you or not. And the biggest one of all, how do you feel about it? Is that something that you feel good? Like one shared, like violence is something that maybe he feels terrible, that it's like so uncomfortable. That's a terrible feeling, right? And you are aware of it, and it's something that you don't want to be related to. So that doesn't make sense to be violent if violence is something that affects your mental health. And be aware of those patterns, right? And this is a meme from Gravity that is to take care of yourself. That I think it's, yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to come and cuddle you and scratch your head, and that would feel so good. And also taking care of yourself doesn't need to be an activity that you do by yourself. And this is something for you guys to figure it out. I know I'm still figuring out mine. So now getting to a different topic. That I did this research with Gravity DAO about how are people seeing themselves working in Web3, and what is related in work in the way that you experience your mental health. So there is a problem in workspace related to mental health, and this is also something real, that like for every $1 put into scale up treatment for common mental disorders, there is a return of $4 in improvement health and productivity. So it's like, it's really an investment. When you invest your time, your resources in yourself, the return from it is so much bigger. So there's like that 1 hour in your calendar that you need to put down to like exercise, to go meditate, to cook, to do like an activity that you feel good about. That 1 hour is an investment for your entire day. I'm sure your day will be so much better if you take care of yourself first, instead of taking that hour and still work. Your productivity will go down if you don't spend time with yourself, you don't invest time in yourself. And this is what this information is talking about, that like even $1 that was invested, the return is $4. So this, for me, that says a lot on how taking care of ourselves improve the way that we do things in our day, and reflects in the way that we're connected to our mind and our body. So depression and anxiety have a significant economic impact. The estimated cost to the global economy is $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. So this is something that the, how do you say in English? Health insurance. This is something that health insurance are getting to know more and more now, because in the past, health insurance were so difficult to put, for example, therapy sessions under their coverage. And now they're understanding that they're going to spend more money with that person if they don't spend the money covering their therapy. And this is something really like boom for me. And some of the things that we can see that also relate to the way that we see ourselves in our work, and how that's how that can be improved, or in a way that we can take you remember that sparkle, like maybe this is something that will sparkle you in the way that you feel yourself in your work, in your day-to-day stuff. Do you experience a workload Do you feel loaded? This also has an impact on your mental health. Burnout, and burnout is for sure, right? Here's also a link to Aloysius' burnout content. They are also a Graviton contributor, and they made a really good job putting together this burnout content. Is stress, if you're feeling stressed, how's the routine in your work? Does your routine, your work reflects the routine that you have in your life? Boundaries. It's so hard to get boundaries, especially in Web3, working at home. Share identity. Are you in a context that you share identity with people around you? And on the research that we did, we put together some factors that we thought would impact the way that people will experience their mental health. And we got 59 people participating in our survey. We had 4 questions for each factor, so it was 36 questions. And in that research, so these are the questions that we asked. The research we were able to see. You're gonna have this later, so I'm just gonna run through it. The ones in blue are the ones that it wasn't a good question that we realized after. But in this research, we were able to see that people are actually feeling a not so good stage of mental health. So these are some of the feedbacks that we got from the participants, and I'm gonna read them to you. So they say, I often accumulate work during days, and then I sit and have a hacking session where I make things. Procrastinating makes me build anxiety until the moment I sit and do the things. I've only recently started to work 10 hours a day because I'm upset and dissatisfied with my current financial status. It has been a challenge, but personally, as long as I exercise, meditate, and take breaks every 9 minutes, it is a fulfilling challenge. So the difference, like this person here, they are loaded and they're experiencing a bad stage of mental health. Even though this person down here, they are working 10 hours a day, they are aware enough of their needs that they are exercising, meditating, taking breaks, and their experience may be a better stage of a mental health because they are aware of those needs and feelings that they're going through. And it's a challenge, and he is aware that he put himself in that situation because he is unsatisfied with his current financial status. This person said, I like the survey, many questions one must ask personally, and now that you're doing and know that you're doing right or wrong. Thank you. This survey makes me wonder whether problems are with the context or my perception. SenseMaker. From Cinefin is a very interesting and rigorous way to invite reflection that I might invite you to investigate. So is it a problem in the context or in the way that I look at things? So are you aware of the way that things affect you? And this could be some things that we could do different in our routine, in our day-to-day stuff, is to schedule intentional time to exercise. Maybe that could be good. You block that time in your calendar and you know that hour you're going to do something intentionally for your body. Make people feel that they're important and they matter. Remember the connections and the relationships that I talked in the past. Having those connections, a deep connection, not only talking about politics or talking about other people, right, when we gossip, but talking about the deeper levels in ourselves. We connect to other people, and that reflects in the way that we are connected to ourselves. Share problem solving. Maybe there is something in your mind that it's stuck there because you need to figure it out and you're not finding a way, maybe going to someone and ask for help um, will be the way to release yourself from that pressure. And separate work hours and personal time. This is something that I also talk about, that like work is so into our culture that we see ourselves as our work. So like in the beginning where I said I'm a psychologist, that's so in our culture that we became what we are in our work. And to separate those things, it's also very important. So this is a practice activity that I want to do with all of you. If you want to open your camera, we could do it together. If you want to open your mics, or if you just want to share in a comment. I want all of you to take a piece of paper and a Sharpie or a pen, a pencil. You need a big piece of paper. It cannot be a small one. Okay, so at least like a notebook size. And you're gonna draw a lot of squares. And while you do that, I want to ask, yeah, if anybody would like to comment on anything that I said before. And I also invite you to be aware of the way that you're feeling now after this presentation. Feel free to do so. And here I draw my squares. It's more like a rectangle. So this is what I want you to do for this exercise. You're gonna draw like medium, big, small, but they need to be big enough so you can write something inside of it, okay? Nice. I just let me know your progress out there. I will give a minute or so you can put down your rectangles in a paper. Josh got his. Awesome. If you want to do different colors, also go in how you're feeling about it. And this is a self-aware exercise that I really enjoy doing it, especially in different times of my life. I always come back to it. It became a practice. And inside of each one of the rectangles, I want you to write down something that represents you. So in the bigger ones that you got, you're gonna write something that represents you the most. Remember when we were talking about that question, who am I? What do I do? What do I like? Think about the things that represents you the most and put in big square in the big rectangles. And then as that something that represents you more or less, you do the mediums, and then something that represents you not so much, you put in the smaller ones. Okay? Is that clear? Cool. Awesome. So I'm gonna do mine. So in the big ones, the ones that represents you the most, and then as you go down, the ones that represents you less, according to the size of the rectangles. So we can do it together. Thank you, Angie. Thank you for staying, for coming. Okay, and as you go, you're gonna put a little square in the top left, and you're gonna put a number between 0 and 10. How positive do you feel being a part of it? So between 0 and 10, 10 being you feel very positive of being a part of that. That's something that represents you. And 0 being like, I don't feel positive about being here. Maybe you feel like you're part of something that you wouldn't like to be, or you still that's something that's still in you, but it's uncomfortable and you don't feel so positive about it. For example, for me, being a woman, it's in the one of the big rectangles, but it doesn't feel that positive to be a woman. But it's something that represents me a lot, and I feel related to it every time. And after you've done that, in the top right, you're gonna write between 0 and 10 or 0 and 30 days involved in that. So you can think about a month, like how many days are you involved in that something in a period of a month. So for example, if I put a psychologist, which I did, then days involved, I'm involved 5 days of a week, so yeah, 20 days out of 30. A woman, I'm 30 days, because I can't stop being that. And in the bottom left, you're gonna put between 0 and 24, time engaged in a day. So how many hours do you spend on that something on a day? For example, as a psychologist, I spend around 5 hours with patients a day. A woman, I spend 24. And you can have more things, you know. Don't limit yourself in the squares, in the rectangles. And the last one is in the bottom right, time in years that you've been engaged on that activity. So for example, psychologist, since I first started when I got in college, which has been a long time now, 8 years. So woman 26, because I'm 26. And then look at the board that you have, and it should be looking something like this. For example, in gravity, I feel 10 out of 10 positive about being part of it. I'm involved 20 days in a month, time engaged in a day around 8 hours, right? Between 0 and 24. In years, now it's actually been 3 years I'm involved in gravity. So you should have a lot of squares looking like that. And now is the fun part that you're gonna create lines between these squares that represents how much those activities, those things that you're involved in your life, they're connected. So if they combine, if they're in agreement, you're gonna do a straight line. If there's a lot of friction or a lot of disagreement, a lot of conflict between those two things, you're gonna do a very wavy line. Okay, so for example, being a woman and being a Web3 for me, it's a challenge. And it's something that they're not such in agreement. So my line is very curvy between them. And more, I would say, stress that line is, more conflict there is related to those two areas in your life that you feel represented. And if it's a straight line, they're in agreement, there are no issues, it's fine. And you can do like a line in between also. That means, yeah, it's okay, but not that great, you know? So being a psychologist and being Web3, it's also a challenge. I'm still trying to figure it out. But being a psychologist and being in gravity is great because that's where I found my space. And I go and I connect all these squares around with one of another. Does it make sense to you? Awesome. And take a moment and look at this board, and that's the representation of how you are experiencing your life today. And what does that board has to tell you? This is a way to be aware of the things that surround you, the things that affect you, the things that maybe you are occupying two different spaces in your life that they're not aligned, and that's becoming something stressful to deal with. And yeah, how was that experience for you? I would love to hear.
Yeah, for me, it's just helpful to like visualize it and I don't know, just be able to like actually look at it and track the connections because I feel like I have a lot of contradictions in my life and it's been something that like I've been, I don't know, working to like sit with the contradictions and almost like at times having the perspective on the contradictions like has like forces me or like leads me to minimizing each of the individual pieces of me. But I think like again, at least just having it to like look at is helpful to like is helpful for me to not minimize them while also be like looking at those contradictions. Yeah, definitely gonna be sitting with this for a while today.
Thanks for sharing that.
Mm,
Yeah, that's the goal, right? To see what are the things in your life, the things that you take place, the things that you're related to, and how, yeah, how you're experiencing that. And I agree, it could look simple and it's a simple exercise, but the way that reflect how we are in this stage that we are right now, it's deep. Eve, I saw that you were gonna share. I don't know if you still want to do it. I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, thank you for this exercise. Super interesting. I noticed that I have had resistance to identifying myself in these ways. Like I didn't want to. And that was interesting to me. Like why? Yeah, and I think that it's really cool the way that you broke it down into the different metrics, which also I felt resistance to. But it's interesting in this space of Web3 where that is a lot of what we're working on and trying to figure out is how to quantify these more intangible elements of our society and of ourselves. So it was interesting to do it at this really personal level and experience that friction within myself.
Thank you for sharing. That was beautiful. And yeah, that's what I wanted to propose today for all of you is to can you answer that question for yourself? Why is self-awareness important in your life? Or do you experience self-awareness right now? And how would you answer it after this conversation, after this exercise? How is that touching you right now?
Are you do you want us to answer?
Yeah, I would love if you want to share.
Yeah, I think that self-awareness is it's like the ultimate challenge and also the ultimate gift because depending on all these different factors that you talked about we can be at so many different places throughout the day or throughout the week, and it's amazing because we can always come back to ourselves, but it's also so painful and challenging because there are experiences or feelings or emotions that we don't want to feel. So I've been really conscious lately of when I'm working or doing other things to distract myself as a way to not feel things. So yeah, I feel like self-awareness is it's like the ultimate journey of life. And thank you for bringing this topic.
Thank you for being here and sharing this moment with me. Would you like to share Juan or Sound? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
I didn't follow the last exercise, but I am very moved by the whole experience of the talk and how much I reflect on my own mental health and how yeah, like there are things that affect us, and some of this trauma that we experience is still painful sometimes, and just being aware of that. And also something that I was curious about, it was on when you were saying that the person that was unsatisfied, um, that was working 10 hours a day, was focusing also in meditation and in exercise. And I wanted to ask if being unsatisfied is also like something that we can attribute to mental health, to our mental health state, or if we can be insatisfied with something and still have good mental health. Because sometimes we tend to relate satisfaction um, to like to like um, we tend to take satisfaction and relate satisfaction um, to being grateful with the moment. So somehow, if you're unsatisfied, can you be unsatisfied and still have good mental health? Or the best state of mental health is when you're satisfied? I don't know.
Mhm. That's an excellent question, because in that example, he realized that he wasn't satisfied with his financial status, and that for him, it was a motive to change, right, in a positive way. So he wasn't satisfied and he was doing something about it because he was aware of his own needs and how that was affecting his his way of being with himself. He said that he was sad. Um, and then when realizing that you are insatisfied and seeing how is that in your own experience, that can be a motive to do something different. So yeah, sometimes you are unsatisfied and you don't know what to do, and then you experience a bad stage of mental health. But if you are unsatisfied, but you have a sense of direction where you want to get to, maybe you're going to be satisfied for a little while and you're conscious of it, and that doesn't take so much space in your life because you are already moving into something that changes you. But that's not the place that you want to occupy in your life, right? You don't want to feel sad and you don't want to feel unsatisfied about everything that you're doing, because that's a flag. Remember those flags? That's a flag. That's something, it's not connected. And then another thing that it came to me when you were speaking, Juan, is that sometimes we don't know how to help other people because we're not connected to what's inside of us. So the connection is also the answer for that, because if you're connected to your feelings and your needs, and you pay attention that you are connected to others, that's going to help you go through that phase in your life. Because the mental health, it's that, like when you're good stage of a mental health, the up and down, you still feeling good, right? So you can be satisfied and still feel good. It's like a roller coaster. So if you're in that stage of a mental health, you're going to have an up. You can be satisfied, but you're still going to be sad. You're still going to be experiencing a bad stage of mental health. You're going to be happy. Something really good is going to happen to you, and you're not going to be able to enjoy fully because you're disconnected from your own experience. You're disconnected from your needs and your feelings. So that bad stage of mental health, you're going to go through the up and down, and you're not going to feel like that makes sense to you, that those things are happening. Does that answer your question? Does that help some way?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's my own relationship um, with with life and mental health, and um, that I try to be satisfied and try to not be unsatisfied. But maybe I need to accept more um, being unsatisfied, because it's also not recognizing um, the things that are there, or thinking that if I just forget about them, they will go away.
But they still there, right? They can change, but they're never gonna go away. They can change the in psychology we say the symptom can change, but the root is gonna still be the same. Um I want to thank you so much for sharing. I see the chat. Sound shared a paragraph and said, ever since I was a teenager, I felt a lot of ambivalence. Eve says, yes, I frequently feel dissatisfied as well. It's frustrating. And you can look at it if you can see the area that you are unsatisfied and you can connect to it, that go through your system. See how do you feel in your body, and then maybe it's like another talk already, but the way that we feel and experience things in our life, it's connected to our brain. So in our brain there is like a spot that if somebody comes and kick you and you feel hurt, that pain of getting hurt physically is in the same place as getting hurt emotionally. So the same way that our body experience mind, the same way that we experience our body in our mind, they are connected. So maybe you feel frustrated and you feel like you have something stuck in your throat, or you feel like your heart can't stop bumping so hard. You're gonna experience the same feelings as it is a physical experience, as it would be like a mind experience. You're gonna feel it in your body, and then it's like paying attention to that, paying attention to that feeling. Where am I feeling in my body? What does that tell to me? Because if you feel in your throat, maybe there is something that you need to say and you need to speak that you're not allowing yourself to. You're not in a lot of self to express that thing that's stuck. And every time that subject comes up, you feel like a knot in your throat. And you're like, that thing again. Or you feel like uncomfortable in your stomach. It's something that you cannot digest. So when that experience comes to your body in that way, it's a really good tip to be aware of it and try to understand, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling, and what can I do about it. And yeah, I feel like I am I'm prolonging myself, but I just want to thank you so much for being present today. Thank you so much for sharing. I love sharing this. So for me, it's really rich when I hear from all of you. And thank you, Josh, for this space. Thank you, the local DAO Summer, for putting this event together and for allowing this conversation to happen. I praise all of you.
Thank you, Bianca.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's truly amazing. I always get like so much and like feel so much better during my day, like after I started off with something like this, or like I know we just finished up like the Gravity DAO. It's like sessions, and literally every day was just amazing after I started off with that. So yeah, just
That's
like
awesome.
trying to continue with just holding that presence. The tools are helpful.
Thank you. And yeah, if you want to still get connected, we can still be sharing. Come to Gravity DAO, come to our Twitters, and let's continue this conversation. Thank you for being here, for staying, even though we passed the hour. And I'm sorry about it.
That was awesome. Yeah. Cool. Sweet. Thank you, everyone. And I know Eve's on later today and Juan's on tomorrow, I think. So yeah, super hyped that you all are just getting involved and participating.
Yeah, thank you. And see you later, and see you tomorrow for Juan's presentation as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Take
Yeah.
care.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I'll be posting the updates and and the summary and all that.
Thank you, Josh, for that. Bye, guys. Have a good